Around a month or so ago, I saw this tweet where an article claims that the new TikTok trend is to sin as much as possible, and in fact, so much that the devil presumably can no longer fuck with you. Now, this was pretty obviously a fake photoshopped story, but I am a go-getter. Now, let me start this off with a disclaimer. Committing your life to sin, even if you're not religious, is probably not a great idea, and I do not condone it in any way. But if you were to, what's the optimal way to Hellmax? Now we have to lay down some ground rules here. The stated goal of Hellmaxing is clearly committing as many sins as possible, in quantity. So the severity of those actions doesn't actually play a huge role. Our goal should always be quantity. This serves more than one purpose too, because you're probably thinking murder spree. That's actually a terrible strat. Just one murder gets you a long stay in the pen, and during that time, you're gonna have a much harder time sinning without the capabilities of everyday free roaming life. See, I've divided all the ways to sin into two types: active sinning and passive sinning. Passive sins, which I will be henceforth referring to as passive sincome, are things you can really do 24/7 without putting too much effort into to make sure you're really getting those devilish reps in. Think of these as like resume boosters for the real shenanigans you're gonna get up to later. Active sinning is the exact opposite. This is stuff that you have to dedicate time, effort, and potentially even money into, but it's where the real points come in. But let's start with the passive sincome. Now, there's a lot you can do here, but the important part is to be really lazy with it. Lounge around, be Garfield-like. You want the most for the least here, so you're gonna wear blended fabrics, you're gonna put up false idols around your house, and this will keep you gaining sins even when you're not awake. Now on Sundays, or Saturdays depending on your interpretation, the game plan changes. This is supposed to be your day of rest, so you gotta do as much as you can. You gotta work out, stay healthy. You know, just because you're a sinner doesn't mean you can't live a happy and fulfilling life. And here's a little bonus. Us LGBT folk, depending on your interpretation of the Bible, might. But you see, these are all things that you don't really have to put that much thought or effort into. After all, the deadly sins are deadly because they're so easy to do. Pride? We got a whole month. Sloth? I make like 2 videos a year. Lust? You're already on the internet. You do have to watch out for wrath though, because that'll get you into trouble with Johnny Law. Anyways, there's a bit of nuance to all of these, and getting everything to work is definitely important, but it all kind of goes on the back burner when we get to the big stuff. Active sinning is a delicate balance act because frankly, most sins will get you in jail these days. There are sins that are too risky to do, especially more than once. Oh, murder. As juicy as the sin might seem, it's simply suboptimal. We want sins that are bad, but not 25 to life bad. You see, I was stuck on how to really maximize my active sinning without getting too risky until I found it. Leviticus. This is the 3rd book of the Old Testament, and it's really not a fan of many things. God told them not to do and not to eat a bunch of stuff. Bear false witness, hell. Eat pork, hell. Eat shellfish, also hell. You get the point. There's really a lot of ways to go here. Like I said before, God hates it when you eat food. Breakfast should be bacon and crab legs. Lunch is pork chops and then a shrimp cocktail appetizer. Finally, dinner, we've got a rack of ribs and lobster. The only real important thing here is that it includes cloven-hooved animals and shellfish. But it's also important to make these meals opulent to contribute to the sin of gluttony. Now, all of this theory is important to know, but at the end of the day, I believe that I have found the #1 meta lifestyle choice for becoming a top Hellmaxer. This is something that will rack you up sins while still seeming like an innocent enough profession, which, by the way, you can lie about. And this is, of course, farming. The devil carries a pitchfork for a reason. You shall not plow with an ox and a donkey together. It is the hard-working farmer who ought to have the first share of the crops. Be lazy, take the first share anyways. Literally just farm for 7 years in a row. When you come into the land and plant any kind of tree for food, you shall then regard its fruit as forbidden. 3 years it shall be forbidden to you, it must not be eaten. Easy. Leviticus 19:19. You shall not let your cattle breed with a different kind. You shall not sow your field with 2 different kinds of seed, nor shall you wear a garment of cloth made of 2 different kinds of material. This reads like a tutorial. And now I present to you the ultimate Hellmaxer. I'm uncircumcised. Now, as you can see, there's a lot of factors in play here, and you can't just go around doing stuff willy-nilly. One small misstep, and suddenly, you're not the biggest sinner anymore. You're just a normal, pretty bad sinner. And that doesn't get you out of hell. That just makes your stay in hell worse, probably. So, what'd we learn today? We learned about the Bible, all the little quirks it has, sinning. Most importantly, though, we learned to be kind to your neighbor. Because you have no fucking chance of out-sinning me, do you understand me? Doctor Strange could look into every single reality, and all of them, he'd see me foot on the devil's neck, looking back at him, staring into his eyes.
I'm at the top of my game. This was never a fucking tutorial. This was never a guide. This was a message. You cannot fuck with me. I am unfuckwiggable. I have no mercy for worms like you.
What's wrong with the world, mama?